a number of years after Carrie was a success as a film, my partner Michael Gore and I were casting around for an idea to do as a musical for the stage. We went at one point to the Metropolitan Opera in New York one night in the early 80s and saw a production of Alban Berg's Lulu, which is a very extraordinary, very unique opera. And on coming out of the theater that night, I looked at Michael and said, it's really interesting. It's sort of Alban Berg's version of Carrie in a way. And we looked at each other and a light bulb went off, that this was a fairly provocative and interesting idea that actually might support a musical based on what its elements were. Namely, an extraordinary, very operatic relationship between a mother and daughter, and on the other hand, high school, in the sense of Grease and West Side Story and a whole other generation. And the idea began to take hold. We involved Dean Pitchford, who had been Michael's collaborator on Fame as a movie, and he sparked to the idea as well. And we set out over the years while we were doing other projects at the same time, spending time working on the idea for this musical. It was an incredibly gratifying, creative period of time for all of us. I think of all the projects we've done, we all had a lot of fun writing it and bringing it to life. And we ended up involving a director who was interested in doing it, who ran the Royal Shakespeare Company in London. He responded to the material and thought, having gone through the success of Les Miserables in London with the RSC, that Carrie would be an ideal opportunity for both him to direct and for the RSC to do another musical. That was a fateful day, and the results became an extraordinary adventure, both good and bad. I think directors and their matchup with material is a very critical thing. I think part of the success of Carrie as a movie was that De Palma turned out to be an inspired choice of material and director. This occasion was far less felicitous in terms of being very English and not particularly musical. And the result was that because of actors' equity and a co-relationship of using both British and American kids, I think Carrie was fundamentally an American piece in the hands of a British director who had no idea what a prom was, or for that matter, what this material really was about when all was said and done. So it became a legendary experience that opened first in Stratford upon Avon, and then it opened in a slightly different incarnation, coincidentally at that point with Betty Buckley taking on the role of Margaret White.
For the couple of weeks that we were there, it was the hottest ticket on Broadway. I mean, it was packed every night to the Gills, the theater, the Virginia Theater. And in our first preview, just to give you an idea, it was choreographed so that, you know, I'm singing this weird lullaby, and I come down this kind of Aztec stairway that's like this white thing with this red handle. You know, it was amazing looking. The lighting was just divine. They took me up in this elevator to the top of these stairs, and I come down in this kind of my own former prom dress, barefoot, with this knife behind my back, right? And I'm singing this love song, this kind of lullaby to Carrie. And I'm comforting her, you know, she's like all drenched in blood. And then I stab her, you know, and then she stops my heart, and I die on the stairs. And then she goes down, crawls down the stairs, and then she dies in the music. And it's very beautifully, you know, very extreme. And the lights go out, and we're supposed to rise and take our bows, and then split center. And then the curtain calls start, and then we finally come out for our final bows. So it's a blackout, and the whole audience in the whole place starts to boo. Now, I've never been in a theater, ever in my life. I mean, I read about it in my survey of theater textbooks about certain plays in Europe and stuff, you know, causing such a violent response that the audience, like, goes into a riot, you know. And, but I just never believed that that could be true. I mean, the entire audience is booing. And here's this lovely little actress, Lindsay Haley, who was 17 years old, from London, and it's her Broadway debut. And she had stopped the show with her first number, and my first number had stopped the show. You know, and our performances, you know, were alive and visceral as they could possibly be. And she looks at me in the dark as though to say, what do we do? And I like go, you know, stand up. You know, so we have to do that. So the lights come back up, and as she and I are standing, and the lights, the entire place in a moment turned into a full house standing ovation. People went wild, screaming and standing ovation. From like boo, standing ovation. I mean, it was just insane.
And I think that made for really interesting, really way out theater. What it needed was money to support it. The people who got it, Clive Barnes and the New York Post, there were a handful of absolute rave reviews, but without the money to support it, there was no future for us. One of the gratifying things and nice things is that we probably get 3 or 4 offers a month to do it again and try it in another version, and perhaps that'll happen yet.